Good evening. Israel initiated a significant military operation against Iran, codenamed Operation Rising Lion, marking the most substantial Israeli assault on Iranian soil since the Iran-Iraq War of 1980s. With us today, Bilal Saab, Senior Managing Director at Trends US and Fellow Assistant at Chatham House. Hello, Bilal.
Pleasure to be with you, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us, Bilal. What do you think was the immediate trigger for Israel's Operation Rising Lion? Was it purely about nuclear deterrence, or are there deeper strategic motives behind it?
I would go for the latter, Sarah. I think there's a deeper strategic motive there. I think they see an opportunity to not just go after nuclear sites, but to wage a sustained campaign that seeks to destabilize the regime. So I think they understand quite clearly that they can't go after every single nuclear site, because some of those sites, like Fordo, for example, which is buried underground, they don't have the means to actually destroy it. So for them, the best case scenario is to try to actually go after the people who manage those nuclear sites, as opposed to go after the substance itself, which is the enriched uranium. The question is, obviously, is this going to work? But the Israelis themselves have said that this is not a one-off. This is going to happen over the next few days. So there might be an actual method to this madness, which is we go after the Iranian military leadership, we go after political officials, we go after missile sites, and then make the Iranians as vulnerable as possible so that they can go after the nuclear sites much more effectively later. That's an assumption. I'm not sure that's the strategy, but we'll see what happens over the next day or so.
Bilal, Israel claimed this was a precise and preventive strike. Do you think it achieved its objectives militarily or symbolically?
Yeah, a little bit of both, but I would be quite skeptical about the military utility of it, frankly, because I think we're facing here a classic counterproliferation paradox. And let me explain what I mean by that. The harder you go against a regime or any country that seeks to proliferate and build nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction, the harder you go against them, the more aggressive you are, the more likely that that country actually will race to the bomb. And so if the purpose of the Israelis is to prevent the Iranians from actually acquiring a bomb, I think now there's a greater danger that the Iranians will race to the bomb, especially when they have such capabilities in Fordo itself, which is quite secure under the mountain. And so I don't think that this strategy is without risks, but once again, we don't want to make any definitive judgment right now, because we don't know what the Israelis are up to over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, and 72 hours. So we'll see.
Bilal, Iran has vowed to a harsh response. Are we on the verge of a direct regional war, or do you expect a more calibrated retaliation?
No, that's overblown. I don't think we're going to see a regional war. I don't think Iran really has the capability to go after the Israelis in a very hard way. Obviously, they're going to say it. I mean, if I were in the Iranian shoes, I would definitely say that I'm going to mount a very strong, revenge operation against the Israelis. But their capabilities now are...
The military capabilities, right?
Yeah, the military capabilities are quite limited. I don't think they have enough payload, frankly, in their missiles to harm Israel the way they want to. I think their options overall, let's just talk about options. Strategic options of the Iranians right now are not exactly stellar. They're all really awful because they have to balance between a revenge operation with actually ensuring the survival of the Iranian regime. They don't want to pick a fight with the Americans also. And so look, this is not expected. I mean, this is quite this is quite normal for a weaker party to have such awful options. The weaker party right now is Iran. It's not Israel. Israel has the upper hand right now, militarily speaking. They seized the initiative. They have a very strong ally in the United States.
Exactly.
So
speaking of allies, Bilal, speaking of allies, was this attack coordinated or at least greenlit by the United States or other allies behind the scenes?
I can't imagine the Israelis doing something like this without the Americans knowing about it. I'm pretty sure that they gave them a heads up. But publicly speaking, you heard what Marco Rubio said, the Secretary of State, that the Israelis launched a unilateral strike against the Iranians. They're sort of trying to distance themselves from it. I'm pretty sure behind the scenes, there's a high level of coordination between the two sides.
Iran has used drone attacks as an initial response. How significant is that in military terms? I know that you said that they don't have the military capabilities to retaliate. What might come next?
Very insignificant, Sarah. I mean, you got to remember that the biggest obstacle to Iranian revenge operations is distance or geography. You got to go through Iraq, Syria, and then ultimately get to Israel. And those drones are pretty slow. Unless you change your force mix, I don't want to use fancy terms here, but like if you don't start with a heavy dose of ballistic missiles, which are much more fast flying, and then follow it up with a swarm of drones, if you don't do some kind of a mix of those, the military utility of the Iranian revenge attack is going to be quite limited.
How about Iran's allies, such as Houthis, such as Hezbollah? Can't we expect them to come together, such as a regional proxy forces?
This is where we go back to the method to the madness of the Israelis, where they, I mean, consider it sort of like as an octopus, right? The Iranian octopus, they took out the legs first. That's Hezbollah, that's Hamas. To some extent, the Houthis, obviously, they still have some capabilities, but those are quite modest. So even if they were to come together, Sada, even in the best case scenario, even then, I don't think they have enough firepower to really destabilize or threaten the existence of Israel or really cause much damage.
To you, Bilal, how does this attack shift the balance of power in the region? Is it likely to embolden or isolate Israel diplomatically?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a diplomatic cost to all this. I mean, the Israelis knew about it, but I don't think they give a damn. I mean, they've shown time and time again that they don't really give a damn about popular opinion, internationally speaking. They don't care about diplomatic costs. All they understand is the lens of national security and national survival, the way they see it, obviously. I don't agree with that mentality. I don't agree with that logic, but that's how Israel has always operated. So you'll probably see some condemnation, you'll see some pressure diplomatically, but it will amount to very little. I mean, you saw what the Israelis did throughout the campaign against Gaza, and there was very little repercussions to all of that.
Absolutely.
I don't think this is going to be different.
Yes, absolutely. Earlier you were speaking of Iran's capabilities. How about Israel's capabilities? Israel is already fighting on a front. It's already, carrying out a genocidal war for over a year now in Gaza. Does it have the capabilities also to lead another war somewhere else in the region?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I don't think the Israelis have a problem with firepower, with intelligence. I mean, look at the strikes that they just launched against the Iranian military personnel with the head of the RGC, with the head of the armed forces, and also Ali Shamkhani, the political advisor to the supreme leader. They had impeccable intelligence, right? And they have sufficient capacity to actually achieve some kind of destabilization of the regime. So we're not looking here at a war of attrition, right? This is not the Iran-Iraq war that we saw back in the 1980s for 8 years between two belligerents. I think this is going to be a much more precise campaign. This is going to be much more painful. This is going to be much more targeted against the Iranians. So the Israelis are quite adept at launching that kind of war, especially with U.S. assistance. I don't expect the Americans to sit on the sidelines and not provide with the Israelis with everything they need. Perhaps with the exception of heavier weapons and bunker buster bombs, so to go after the Fordo facility under the mountain. But heck, who knows? Maybe Trump will change his mind and actually provide those weapons. I don't know.
Bilal, do you think that the intent behind this bombing was also to divert the attention from Gaza?
No, Sarah. No, I don't think it's really that related. I think that the Israelis see a massive opportunity right now, political but also strategic, with the United States being sort of confused with its strategy regarding Iran. I mean, look at all the contradictory statements and messaging that is coming out of the Trump administration. On the one hand, yes, we're going to talk to you on Sunday, and then on the other hand, we're going to give the green light to the Israelis to bomb. What do you expect the consequences of that would be? Of course, the Iranians are not going to talk to you anymore on Sunday now that they've been attacked so viciously and strategically and in a very historic way, right? So what the Israelis have done, they've taken advantage of this U.S. uncertainty, U.S. confusion about its own approach with regard to Iran. And I don't think they're tying it to Gaza in any way whatsoever.
Do they have the means to expand to other regions?
Where would they go? I mean, the number one target is Iran. I don't think they really care about anything else. I mean, they might go after the Houthis a little bit more, but the biggest threat that the Israelis have seen since 1979 is Iran, and finally they see an opportunity to go after the regime.
Yes.
I don't think they really care that much about the full destruction of the Iranian nuclear program. I think they want to go after the regime itself, and this is what we call decapitation. This is what we call destabilization, ultimately leading to a regime change and maybe the streets in Tehran rising against the leadership. These are all assumptions, by the way. These are all theories. I'm not sure any of this is going to materialize, but that's sort of the logic driving these strikes right now. I want to be very clear with you, Sarah. This is quite comprehensive, holistic. This is not just kinetic and military. This is really going after the leadership of Iran to finally sort of cause it to crumble and maybe fall.
Thank you very much, Bilal, for being with us. Bilal Saab, we are a senior managing director at Trends US. Thank you for being with us tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.